Hello and welcome to Radiant Freedom Digital Marketing. And this is part 4 of our series on how to build a WordPress website that converts. And today we'll be looking at how to add your contents to your homepage. And joining us today is Owen Xavier from the Canadian marketing team as part of this collaboration.
Hi, everyone.
All right, so now what we'll be doing is we're actually set up in our WordPress here. So we have our homepage loaded up in the editor. Right now we're using the page builder by Site Origin for this one, which is a great way, if you're not a programmer, is a great way of getting some very highly customized layouts on your pages without having to know how to do a bunch of fancy coding or deal with any cookie cutter effect. Right, here's our main contents here. So what we're going to do is start with adding a row into our thing here. So for this first part of the top, what I'm going to do is make that a 1-column row and insert that. So now this row gives us a place to insert our contents in. And I'm just going to go ahead back over to here. So with this file here, what we have is a headline in place here. And just looking at our website, I'm going to bring up the page as it looks right now. Here we go. That's a quick way of doing that. So just give a moment for our page to load. So what we're going to be doing is inserting a bunch of different, what we call widgets into here. So it's going to open this up for a minute. So as you can see here, there's a whole bunch of different widgets to choose from. So this one here is good if you are a programmer and want to use some HTML. You can insert a photo gallery, a single image, as well as there's also all the standard WordPress widgets are available as well, such as regular text and archives. If you want to insert some of your blog stuff into here, you can also insert a page, a whole bunch of different options here, which we'll be going through. But we'll also be looking at inserting. This also gives you the option to insert things like tables and a bunch of other stuff that's not available now. First, starting with, we have.
Can you really make any mistakes?
Hello?
I was just asking if you can really make any mistakes with this. Can you actually make mistakes doing this, or is it kind of like a learn as you go, or what was the time frame that we have to put into doing this? An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours?
I would say you're going to want to spend a little bit of time, definitely getting yourself familiarized with, the WordPress backend, the plugin, and stuff like that. So there definitely is a bit of a learning curve. It's not nearly as steep as learning how to program. Now, so where we're at right now is the theme that we're using actually comes with a built-in, place for putting a header image in. So what I've done is inserted, the header image that we created in part 2 of this series as an image within here. So it's no longer tied to homepage content. So this gives us our main headline, which when the site loads up, you'll see this in the area what's called above the fold. So now what we're going to do is head back over into our page builders. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we have the subheadline Odin was talking about in his previous examples in part 3. So in this case, this is a subheading we came up for this, for this specifically for this moving example. So what we're going to do is look for the option to add in a title, which I'm not seeing it in here yet. If not, then you can just quickly pop out of here and we'll add that one in. Oh, here it is, site origin headline. I was just being blind. All right, so now what we're going to do is click in here to edit. And so now we can add in text for our sub headline, which will be this. So let's copy this from our source document. And I do recommend you use a source document because it gives you a backup. And then you select what type of tag. Now these are based on HTML. So basically the higher the number, the less essentially the less important it is. So like H1 is your biggest headline, H2 is secondary, H3 is your third tier, and so on. So what we do for a subheading is usually you'd want it to be an H2 or an H3. In this case, I'll use an H2 to make it a little bit smaller than the main headline, but still a little bit bigger than some of the others we might be using. And so I've just added it in. Now I'm going to click Update, which is going to save our page. So you can now take a quick look at what we've just added in here. Now with WordPress, the easiest way to do that is I'm going to click Preview Changes, which will open up a new tab and allow us to preview our work as we're going. And basically each time we make major changes, we can hit this. I won't necessarily do this with every little thing I add, but just want to do it first with a subheading just to give you an idea of how all this works. Then we'll go through and add in all the rest of the contents, and as well as show you how to work in images and different things like that, as well as some of the stuff in here we may want to present in 2-column format, or maybe this area here we have 3 things here, we might want to do 3 columns and present these 3 points each as a separate column. So as you can see here, we have a few different types of ways of presenting the information. We have some paragraphs, some bullet points, some things of different formatting, such as underlining and different bolding and different things like that. All right, so as you can see, our headline is now show up here. That's actually looking a little bit bigger than what we want. So if something like that happens, you have a couple of different options how you can deal with that. One is you could change this to a lower tier HTML tag, or you can assign a font size to it. In this case, what we'll do is just switch this over to H3 format and click done. Now there's also some options in here that we can look at, but for now we'll just focus on the basics for you. All right, so now we've updated our headline. So all we're going to do is start adding in some of the rest of our contents. So let's taking a look here. So the next bit is we have another headline followed by some paragraphs. So what I'm going to do is once again use the Add Widget tool and use the headline tool, which once again I'm being a little bit blind and not seeing it. Let's try under Widgets bundle. Okay, it's under Widgets bundle. That's why I'm having trouble finding it. All right, so then what we're going to do is add in this next headline, which is a must if you are moving. But first of all, I'm going to set this to H2. This one here is actually recommended to be a little bit bigger than the other one. It's also a shorter block of text, so it's not going to be as big of a problem. So here's where you could enter in some custom code. It's going to take a look at layout. Okay, so basically here's where you can also do a few other changes. So in this case, so padding, what that'll do is, and margins, so basically what that does is it creates a little extra space around your stuff so it doesn't get crowded together. And under design, now we can here change things like colors, add borders, images, different things like that. These would be background images. So in this case, we're not really looking to do any of that. I just wanted to show you what those things are, because I did briefly mention that. So alignment centered, that's definitely what we want. And so, all right, so it looks like we're not going to have necessarily an easy way of adding a style into it from in here, so just won't worry about that for now. So now we've got our subheading in. So next, what I'm going to do is add another widget. And this time I'm just going to go to all widgets. And what we're looking for here is a text widget. So that should be down near the bottom. If you All right, so it looks like these things are actually alphabetical order, so that should make it easier to find things once you realize that. So what I can do is edit in now the main body of our text. All right, so basically this part here is the part where you're going to be doing in single column. So you can add a title in here. I'm not going to worry about that for now. So I'm just going to copy and paste all our text in.
You know what I like, Jason?
Yeah.
I like the fact that what you're doing is you're showing us kind of step by step by step, because I know a lot of people, what they really need is they need to see it first and then they can go and do it. So I really appreciate
Yeah,
your doing. Thank you.
exactly. Now these things actually came up as part of our bullet points automatically because when I copied it from from that word processor document, it actually copied over all the word processor formattings and converted it to HTML. But what happens if it's not like that, or that formatting wasn't what you want? So it's going to show how I'd handle that here. So let's say these things here we want as a bulleted list. So we'll highlight that and we'll have a bulleted list tool right up here in our toolbar. So we'll just click that, and now that's bulleted. Let's say this stuff here didn't come up underlined like we'd wanted. Well, there's bold and underline options, so you can turn, or that's italics option, so you can, let's say, make this bold if we wanted to. So I'll tell you what, we'll do that because I think bold makes it stand out a little bit more. And so those are a couple of different ways you can edit things. Maybe we wanted to, let's say, link to this act. Then what you do is click the insert link here. Then you could do is find the link to that, copy and paste it in. And what I do is recommend opening up the link options so you can paste in your URL. And if that's something like that would be linking outside your site, so I'd recommend click this open link in a new tab, thing here. And what I'll do for now, just for demo, is I'll just link it to our contact page. Normally what I'd do is look for the website where that act is located on and direct link to the app that's listed in there. But this time I don't have time to go searching around for that right now, so we'll just do this. And the reason I recommend you do this is because if you don't, then what'll happen is the person will click that link, and then next thing you know, they'll be on, say, the Government of Canada website, looking at that act, and they'll have lost your website. Whereas if you do this, what'll happen is it'll, just click done here. Since we're finished editing this section, I'll click update, and then I'll open up the preview and show you what happens when you have that tick mark I just showed you, ticked. Is it'll open it up in a new tab instead of taking you away from your website. And I recommend you do that anytime you're doing any link that's leading to, outside of your website.
Everyone listening, this is exactly what you'll go through when you're working on your site. It's about being patient with the pauses.
All right, so now that we've saved our work, what I'm going to do is go back to our preview again and take a look at that and show you what I mean by and just show you what I mean by making sure that your outbound links open up into a new tab. All right, so now you can see all the stuff we've just added in. So we have our link here, and I'm going to click on it. So it's took a person over to a new tab. Now, in this case, of course, it's just opening up a different page on our site. But here, the original page is still there. So that way, you're not navigating people away from your website, but you're still able to link off-site, whenever you need to. So now let's head back into our editor. So the next bit here is we'll be working on this component here. Actually, this part here can go into this section here because it's still going to be part of the same single column. So it's going to go back in here, add a new line in, paste that in, centered. Yes, it is. Good. So click done. And so now what we're going to want to do is next part, this part here, what I was thinking of doing is splitting this up into 3 columns because we have 3 points here. So that's another way you might want to display something like that is in 3 columns. So what we're going to do is say this thing here is your number of columns before we change that to 1. This time we're going to make that 3. So now we have 3 columns. They're all even size. You can also change it to different, to different sizes if you want. In this case, maybe we want to do a little bit of something a little bit more fancy here. So maybe put in a say a light, gray background behind this one. So all right, just going to re-edit that because I think I got the background a little bit too dark there. So, light gray backgrounds, just they want to, highlight those 3 points a little bit more. So now you see you have your 3 columns here. So now what I'm going to want to do is add a widget, basically add a text widget into each of those 3 columns. So here's one. I'm just going to hit duplicate, duplicate again. And now these ones, of course, in the wrong place. But what you do is when you get these 4 arrows over, then you just drag each of these over to where you actually want them to be. And now we're all set. So first what we're going to do is edit column 1, which is going to be point 1 on this list. And now first thing I'm going to do is actually just use a open office feature, which is the word processor we're using, because I'm going to be presenting these as subheadings. So I'm going to do a change case and select capitalize every word for each of these to make sure it's in proper title case, and the third one as well. Because when we originally wrote this, we were thinking of this as being 3 bulleted points, but now we're presenting this a little bit differently. So now I'm going to copy this and now paste it into here. In this case, I don't really need that one there, so I'm just going to turn that off. And instead, what I'm going to do is actually what I'm going to do is delete that because we're actually going to be presenting that as some small subheadings. So what we're going to do is just add another widget in, and looking for site origin headline. There it is. And of course it's in the wrong spot, so just drag it up. And again, just duplicate it twice. Again, drag these so they're over top of the main area. So now I'm going to go in here, click edit, and I'm going to put the headline text. We don't want H1 for this, so I'll go say H4 to make sure it's a nice, small headline. And alignment center, that's fine. All right, so now I'll click done. And for this next one, I'm going to click edit. I'm going to grab this one. Again, put the text in there. Don't need the 2 and the dot, so we'll delete that. And again, the headline level, we want that to be level 4. Click done. Once again, we'll do the same thing for this one. Grab our 3rd headline, copy that, and then we'll paste that into here. Again, get rid of the number. Now, in case you're wondering why you keep getting that 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, and so on, that's just basically formatting that's getting copied over from the document in here. Now, if you wanted to avoid that, unfortunately, it's not a simple way of doing that, but a very simple way you can use on your computer. If you're using Windows, there's actually a handy little tool on there called Notepad. Let's see if it's out in here. Okay, so it's not readily available, but a quick way that I have of finding it is just start typing Notepad while on this screen, and that'll get Windows to automatically do a search. Okay, so here's Notepad. So I just did a quick search on my computer for it. And what you can do is, if you're getting a bunch of formatting transferring over into your WordPress that you don't want, just go into Notepad, paste it in here. In this case, you can delete anything like that. And let's say we didn't, and let's say for, this part 2 here, we didn't want that bold to show up the way it is. Okay, it looks like we're missing a period at the end of the sentence. So that's always something to keep an eye out for. So what I'm going to do is, so first of all, I have our third heading in there. It's going to paste this in there as well. So then what I'm going to do is just cut that out, head over to here, then I'd paste that in here, and just delete that. And so now you're not getting that 3 dot showing up. Now I'll click done. So next, I'm going to go and edit this area here. So again, if I were to copy it straight from here, all this formatting in here, including that bold, would copy over, as well as the font that's being used. So in this case, what I'm going to do is show you what happens if I now copy it from out of Notepad. It's gone. This area is not bolded. Now, in reality, we do want this to be bolded, so I'm going to rebold it from within here. But sometimes you don't necessarily want that, or the word processor is doing some weird stuff you don't want in here. In that case, that's a quick workaround you can use as Notepad. And the reason that this works is because Notepad just works in plain text. So there's no fancy formatting allowed in here. So essentially, once you paste anything into here, any formatting that your fancy word processor puts in there is gone. Now, in this case, we don't need to worry about saving anything. So in this case, we've got our second set over, and now our third set. In this case, I'm just going to copy and paste directly over, because this time I'm not really worried about us bringing over any formatting. Anything that does come over, I'm fine with it coming over. So it's quicker and easier. Now we've got all our contents in here. So now I'm going to, once again, save our progress, and then we'll take a look at what the finished homepage looks like. All right, so now that we've saved, once again, I'm going to hit preview and give this page a chance to reload. All right, and so here's our finished page. So now we have our main menu, our headline that we worked on in parts 1 and 2, and now we have the body content that we covered for parts 3 and 4. Now this coloring here, I will point out, is something that I wouldn't recommend. I would definitely make the text darker in this case. In fact, I'll show you what I mean by that, as well as make the background a little bit brighter, because what you'll notice here is what's happening is we're getting, first of all, you notice the text is running right up to the edge. So we're getting that crowding I mentioned earlier. So this is where doing some finishing touches comes in. So this is where you'd want to use what's called the padding feature, which I'll show you that in a moment, to get rid of this crowding at the edge. Second is where you want to do some refining. So maybe make this background a little bit lighter, make sure the text is all in black font so that it's as dark as possible. The reason you want that is because you want to have maximum possible contrast. So first thing is I'm going to go into here and re-edit this space. There we go. So I'm going to go into design, background color. I'm going to make that a little bit lighter. All right, there we go. And next, what I'm going to, whoops, didn't mean to close that. And so next thing I'm going to do is close out design, go into layout. So here's where we're going to use that padding feature. What that does, it adds extra space on the inside of your object. So in this case, this would be this thing here is going to put, let's say, try padding of, usually I find padding 5 works okay. In this case, I'm going to go for 10. And we want it on all 4 sides. And this tells you what measurements in it. This is in pixels right now, which is exactly what we want. So now I'm going to click done. And the next thing I'm going to do is go in here and I'm just going to edit the headline and body text for this one here. So I'm going to go with font color over here. So right now it's doing a default color. So I'm going to make sure that it's solid black. So that's going to be 000000. All right, there we go. Oh, it is black right down here as well. You can also do it that way. Now this thing here is basically the color code. And if it's all zeros, that's one quick way of getting black as well, if you're having trouble finding that. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with the text. And I'm going to leave the other 2 untouched so that you can see what the difference is. So again, I'm going to go into design. Don't want to change the background color, border, font color. Here we go. So now I'm going to select black because I want to make absolutely certain that we're in black for this. Once again, we're going to save our changes. And then once the changes finish saving, then we're going to click preview again and go back into our preview. All right, so here we are again with our page. So all the stuff at the top is still the same. So now you notice once I change this to black text, you notice how this text here stands out a little bit more. It really pops. Looks like I might have not gotten that headline changed to quite take. Just gonna go back in here. Might have forgot to hit the save button with that one. Come on. So it's going to go back into design. Okay, I did change that. Guess that's just a bit of an optical illusion. Right, but you notice though how this column here, the first column, is a lot easier to read than these other 2. So that's an example of where you can run into contrast, and that's something I see a lot of web developers, web designers, do-it-yourselfers get into trouble with. Is they'll have something in this funky gray background or funky light blue background or whatever, and then they'll be using this kind of medium gray text, which all that does is just makes things harder to read for the visitor when they get on there and they have to deal with stuff like this here, where sure, maybe 80% of the people might have no problems reading it, but do you really want to lose 20% of your potential sales just because a person couldn't read your contents? Probably not. That's because we're talking about conversions, and if a person can't read your contents, that's a conversion killer right there.
I agree with that. And remember that it might be best to just stick with traditional what you see in the newspaper. So think of a newspaper or think of a magazine and go with that. Don't be fancy. What you're looking for is you're looking for and educating your target market. And if they're coming to their website, that means they're essentially doing research, and you want to be the person that gives them the best information for them to buy.
Yes, for sure. So essentially, this is sort of the main key aspects for building a WordPress website that converts. So I have a quick question for all of you, if you could post it in the comments down below, is do you have a website, and how well are you satisfied with your website's current conversion rates? Post your comments in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. And once again, this has been Jason and Odin from Radiant Freedom and the Canadian marketing team, and teaming up in a collaborative video. Now, thank you for watching. If you found this information helpful, make sure you hit the thumbs up button to let us know. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you consider subscribing, and so you can stay up to date on the latest contents coming up. Once again, this has been Jason from Radiant Freedom, and
Odin from the Canadian marketing team.
Remember, you're awesome. So shine your awesomeness for the world to see. Bye for now.